The emergency beacon screamed across 17 star systems, its desperate frequency cutting through the cosmic background radiation like a knife through silk. On the peaceful agri-world of Verdania Prime, the message arrived during the morning meditation period when most of the Verdani population communed with their sacred plant networks. Elder Kelvin's photosynthetic patches flickered with distress as he absorbed the transmission. His bark-like skin turned a sickly yellow as the meaning became clear. The mining colony on Kepler 442c was dying, and they had perhaps 48 standard hours before complete atmospheric collapse claimed all 3,000 souls aboard the orbital platform. Send word to all member species of the Galactic Peaceful Coalition, Kelvin commanded, his voice rustling like wind through leaves. This is a Category 5 emergency requiring immediate response. The Verdani communications specialist, her flower crown bristling with anxiety, began transmitting the plea across known space. The message was simple and desperate. A catastrophic breach in the atmospheric processors had left the mining station with critically contaminated air. The workers, primarily Zilani crystal farmers and Aquarian deep-sea specialists, were slowly suffocating as their breathing apparatus failed one by one. Within hours, responses began flooding back through hyperspace channels. The Zilani Council sent regrets. Their crystal ships could not reach the system in time, requiring 7 days minimum for their delicate navigation crystals to align properly. The Aquarians expressed deep sorrow, but explained their water-breathing physiology made them unable to assist in atmospheric emergencies. The Photosynthetic Alliance, representing 12 different plant-based civilizations, offered prayers and energy seeds but admitted they had no technology capable of reaching the mining station quickly enough. Their ships moved at the pace of growing seasons, not emergency response. Even the advanced Synthari, whose mechanical bodies could theoretically survive in any environment, declined assistance. Their recent peaceful accords forbade them from engaging in activities that might be perceived as military intervention, and rescue operations fell under those restrictions. One by one, every civilized species in the known galaxy found reasons to excuse themselves from the rescue operation. Some cited technical limitations, others legal restrictions, and many simply admitted their peaceful nature had left them unprepared for such urgent crises. As the hours passed and the mining station situation grew more desperate, a strange quiet settled over the Galactic Emergency Response Network. It seemed that for all their advancement, for all their wisdom and peaceful coexistence, the galaxy's civilized species had forgotten how to act when action was desperately needed. Then, from the outer rim territories, a new signal appeared on the emergency frequencies. The transmission quality was rougher than the polished communication from the core worlds, filled with static and interference that suggested older, more primitive technology. This is Captain Sarah Martinez of the human cargo vessel Iron Providence. The message crackled through the speakers. We've received your emergency transmission regarding Kepler 442c. We're currently 17 light years out, but we can reach the station in 36 hours if we push our drives to maximum. Elder Kelvin's photosynthetic patches fluttered with confusion. Humans? He had heard of them, of course, the newcomer species from the galactic rim who had only recently made contact with civilized space. They were different. Disturbing reports suggested they were predators, actual carnivores who consumed other living beings for sustenance. Captain Martinez, Kelvin responded carefully, we appreciate your offer, but this is a delicate operation requiring sophisticated atmospheric processing equipment and, Sir, Martinez's voice cut through his diplomatic hedging. We've got emergency life support gear, industrial atmosphere processors, and a crew trained in hostile environment ops. More importantly, we've got a ship that can actually reach those people before they all die. The transmission paused, and when the human captain spoke again, her voice carried an edge that made Kelvin's bark shiver. With respect to all the advanced civilizations monitoring this frequency, we seem to be the only ones actually moving to help. Are you going to let 3,000 people die because you're uncomfortable with our dietary preferences? Across the galaxy, the emergency frequency fell silent. The truth of the human captain's words struck like lightning through the peaceful corridors of power. For all their moral superiority, for all their advanced philosophies of nonviolence and harmony, not one of the civilized species was actually doing anything to save lives. Captain Martinez, Kelvin said slowly, his voice carrying the weight of a decision that felt like stepping off a cliff. You are authorized to proceed with rescue operations. What do you need from us? Just clear us a path through any security cordons and have medical facilities standing by, Martinez replied. And sir, you might want to warn the other species representatives what they're going to see. Humans don't rescue people the way you folks might expect. The Iron Providence was already accelerating, her fusion engines burning bright against the star field as she raced toward a dying station, and the first real test of human intentions in galactic space. On the bridge of the cargo vessel, Captain Sarah Martinez studied the tactical display showing their approach vector. Her crew of 23 humans represented something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that had evolved as persistence hunters, predators who had climbed to the top of their world's food chain, not through venom or claws, but through sheer relentless determination. Ma'am, called out Navigator Chun from a station, I'm reading massive structural damage to the mining platform's atmospheric systems. The Zilani apparently build it using living crystal matrices that are dying from some kind of contamination. Martinez nodded grimly. The peaceful species of the galaxy had built beautiful things, but they had built them for their own natures. Crystals that required specific harmony frequencies to maintain structural integrity. Biological systems that assumed symbiotic relationships rather than hostile environments. Everything designed for a universe where bad things simply didn't happen to good people. Engineering report, she called. Chief Engineer Rodriguez looked up from his displays, his scarred hands, marked by years of working with dangerous machinery, dancing across controls. Ma'am, their life support is failing because the bioatmosphere processors can't handle the contamination. They're designed to work with living systems, not fight them. Can we help them? Rodriguez grinned, and it wasn't a particularly nice expression. Ma'am, our atmospheric processors are designed to terraform dead worlds. They don't ask permission from existing ecosystems. They bulldoze through them and create what we need. If these crystalline farmers built their systems to be polite to contamination, our gear will be like bringing a sledgehammer to a flower arrangement. Martinez felt a familiar cold satisfaction settle in her chest. Humanity had spent centuries learning to survive in environments that wanted to kill them. Every human ship carried equipment designed not to work with hostile conditions, but to dominate them completely. How long until we reach them? She asked. 28 hours, ma'am, Navigator Chen replied. But we're going to arrive hard and fast. No time for gentle docking procedures. Good, Martinez said, then opened a channel to the crew quarters. All hands, this is the captain. We're going into a hot rescue situation. The locals built their station like a garden, and now that garden is dying. We're going to cut through their pretty systems and keep 3,000 people alive, whether their technology likes it or not. Throughout the ship, her crew began preparing with the efficiency of apex predators moving in a hunting mode. They checked their powered atmospheric suits, designed to function in the vacuum of space or the crushing depths of gas giants. They tested their cutting tools, meant to slice through asteroid hulls or alien alloys with equal ease. They readied their emergency life support systems, built to sustain human life in environments that would kill most galactic species within minutes. Back on Verdania Prime, Elder Kelvin watched the humans approach with growing unease. Their ship moved through space like a bullet, burning fuel at rates that would bankrupt most civilized species' economies. Their communications were terse and tactical, lacking the elaborate courtesies that normally preceded any interaction between galactic civilizations. Elder, his communications specialist, whispered, her flower petals trembling with anxiety, I'm monitoring human internal frequencies. Their language, it's so violent. They speak of cutting through systems and dominating hostile environments. Kelvin nodded slowly. Perhaps calling on the carnivorous humans had been a mistake. But what choice did they have? Every hour brought the mining station closer to complete atmospheric collapse, and only the predator species from the rim had actually moved to help. On the dying mining station, Supervisor Glim felt his crystal matrix lungs struggling to filter the poisoned atmosphere. Around him, 3,000 workers from a dozen peaceful species slowly suffocated as their biological and crystalline life support systems failed one by one. The Zilani had built the station as a living entity, its walls grown from singing crystals, and its atmosphere maintained by symbiotic algae gardens. It was beautiful, harmonious, and completely helpless against the industrial contamination that had somehow breached their filters. Supervisor gasped his aide, a young Aquarian whose gill slits were turning gray from oxygen deprivation. The Galactic Coalition is sending humans. Glim's prismatic eyes flickered with fear and hope in equal measure. He had heard stories of the newcomer species, tales of beings who consumed living flesh and conquered worlds through pure aggression. But they were also the only ones coming to help. As if summoned by his thoughts, the station's sensors detected an approaching vessel moving at impossible speeds. The Iron Providence announced itself not with the elegant harmonics preferred by civilized species, but with a harsh radio transmission that cut through interference like a scream. Mining Station Kepler 442C. This is the human vessel Iron Providence. We are beginning emergency docking procedures. Evacuate all personnel from Docking Bay 7. We're coming in fast, and our ship doesn't play nice with your crystalline infrastructure. Before anyone could respond, the human ship was there, its angular hull slamming against the station's delicate docking crystalline matrix with enough force to shatter 6 months of careful growth. Emergency alarms shrieked as the station's living systems recoiled from the violent contact. Then the airlock opened, and the humans emerged. They moved like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Quick, purposeful, predatory. Their environmental suits were bulky and aggressive-looking, designed more like armor than the elegant symbiotic breathing apparatus used by civilized species. They carried tools that looked more like weapons, cutting implements, and forcing devices that spoke to a philosophy of imposing one's will upon the universe rather than finding harmony with it. Captain Martinez surveyed the dying station with the calculating gaze of a hunter evaluating wounded prey. Her crew spread out behind her, each human moving with an economy of motion that suggested violence held in careful check. Jesus, muttered Chief Rodriguez as he scanned the station's atmospheric systems. It's like they built this thing out of soap bubbles and good intentions. Martinez nodded grimly. The entire station was a masterwork of biological and crystalline engineering, designed to exist in perfect harmony with its environment. Unfortunately, when that environment turned hostile, harmony became helplessness. "All right, people," she announced over the crew frequency. "We've got 3,000 civilians dying slowly in a station built by people who forgot that the universe doesn't care about their feelings. Time to show them how predators save lives." Captain Martinez strode through the dying station's crystalline corridors with her crew fanned out behind her like a pack of wolves moving through a crystal garden. The comparison wasn't lost on Supervisor Glim, whose prismatic form trembled as he watched these predatory beings tear through his carefully maintained facility. "Captain Martinez," Glim wheezed, his crystal matrix lungs struggling with each word. "Please understand, this station is a living entity. Each crystal matrix is connected to every other through harmonic resonance. If you damage one section, the whole thing destabilizes," Rodriguez finished grimly, his scanner painting holographic readouts in the air between them. "Sir, this place isn't just dying, it's committing suicide. The contamination has confused the biological systems into thinking they're under attack, so they're shutting down everything to protect themselves." Martinez nodded. She'd seen similar responses in Terran ecosystems. Organisms so focused on their internal harmony that they couldn't recognize when their defensive measures were killing them. What's the contamination source? Unknown, Glim admitted, his crystalline features flickering with shame. Something infiltrated our biofilters 3 days ago. Our systems are designed to harmonize with foreign substances, to find peaceful coexistence, but this agent actively resists all attempts at integration. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kate Okafor emerged from a side corridor where she'd been examining the station's medical bay. Her dark face was set in grim lines as she approached the group. Captain, I've analyzed the contamination. It's not biological, chemical, or radiological. Near as I can tell, it's some kind of nanomechanical system designed to infiltrate biological processes. Sabotage? Martinez asked. Worse, Dr. Okafor replied. It's a weapon, specifically designed to target the kind of biocrystalline systems these people use. Someone wanted this station to die slowly and helplessly. The implications hit Supervisor Glim like a physical blow. His prismatic skin turned a deep purple, the Zalani color of absolute horror. But who would do such a thing? We have no enemies. The Galactic Peaceful Coalition has maintained harmony for over 2 centuries. Martinez exchanged glances with her crew. In the brief months since humanity had made contact with galactic civilization, they'd been repeatedly surprised by the naive assumptions of the established species. The idea that someone might choose violence for its own sake seemed genuinely incomprehensible to them. Sir, Dr. Okafor said gently, someone did this deliberately. The nanosystems are too sophisticated and too specifically targeted to be accidental. You got an enemy, whether you want to admit it or not. Before Glim could respond, the station shuddered as another section of its crystalline infrastructure failed. Emergency lights flickered throughout the corridor, and the air grew noticeably thinner. We can figure out who's trying to kill you later, Martinez announced, her voice cutting through the rising panic. Right now, we need to keep 3,000 people breathing. Rodriguez, how long do we have? The chief engineer consulted his readings. Atmospheric processing is down to 12% efficiency and dropping. At current rate of decline, we've got maybe 18 hours before total collapse. Can we repair their systems? Ma'am, their systems aren't broken. They're being murdered by something specifically designed to kill them. We could spend weeks trying to purge the nanocontamination and still fail. Martinez felt the familiar cold focus settle over her mind. The mental state that had kept humanity alive through ice ages, plagues, and wars. When the environment wanted to kill you, you didn't negotiate with it. You imposed your will upon it. Then we bypassed their systems entirely, she decided. We're going to gut this place and install human atmospheric processing. Supervisor Glim made a sound like breaking crystal. Captain, you cannot. The harmonic matrices require precise vibrational frequencies to maintain structural integrity. If you install crude mechanical systems... Sir, Martinez interrupted, her voice carrying the patience of a predator explaining reality to prey. Your beautiful harmonic systems are dying. In 18 hours, everyone on this station will be dead. Now, you can choose to let that happen to preserve your architectural aesthetics, or you can let us save lives with our crude mechanical systems. The supervisor's crystalline features cycled through several colors of distress before settling on a resigned pale blue. What would you need to do? Rodriguez stepped forward, his scarred hands sketching rough diagrams in the air. Ma'am, we'll need to identify the main atmospheric circulation nodes and install emergency life support at each one. Won't be pretty, won't be quiet, and definitely won't respect the existing infrastructure. Do it, Martinez commanded. All hands, emergency installation. I want portable atmospheric processors online within 6 hours. What followed was unlike anything the peaceful galaxy had ever witnessed. The humans moved through the dying station like a natural disaster with purpose, their cutting tools slicing through crystalline matrices that had taken decades to grow. Where the station's systems had been designed for harmony and integration, the humans imposed function through pure mechanical brutality. Sergeant Kim Park led a team through the residential sections, installing emergency air scrubbers in chambers where Aquarian families huddled with failing gill filters. Her plasma cutter sent sparks flying as she carved mounting points directly into the living crystal walls, each cut making the station's harmonic matrices scream in frequencies that hurt Zolani ears. "Sorry about the noise," Park called out to a group of terrified crystal farmers as her team wrestled a bulky atmospheric processor into position. "These machines don't do subtle, but they'll keep you breathing." The Aquarian children pressed themselves against their parents' water tanks as the humans worked, their large eyes reflecting both fear and fascination. These strange beings moved with such confidence, such aggressive certainty, that even their acts of salvation felt like conquest. In the station's central core, Chief Rodriguez had identified the primary atmospheric distribution center, a beautiful chamber where living crystals sang in harmonic frequencies that had once maintained perfect air circulation throughout the facility. Now those same crystals were slowly dying, their songs becoming discordant wails as the nanocontamination consumed them from within. "Captain," Rodriguez reported over the comm system, "I need to install the primary processor here, but it's going to kill everything in this chamber. The whole room is basically one giant living organism." Martinez studied the tactical situation. They could try to work around the existing systems, preserve the station's biological infrastructure, and probably watch everyone die as they moved too slowly. Or they could do what humans did best: impose their will upon an uncaring universe through pure technological dominance. "Do it," she ordered. "Cut out everything that's infected and install our gear." Rodriguez nodded and fired up the industrial plasma cutter. The chamber filled with the scream of crystalline matrices being vaporized, their death songs echoing through the station's harmonic network like a wound in reality itself. Zolani throughout the facility wept openly as they felt the destruction of systems their people had spent generations growing. But even as the beautiful crystals died, Rodriguez's team worked with mechanical precision to install human atmosphere processors. These devices were blunt instruments compared to the elegant biological systems they replaced, massive, noisy machines that didn't care about harmony or integration. They simply grabbed whatever atmosphere was available, processed it through brute force chemical filtration, and pumped out breathable air whether the existing systems cooperated or not. Dr. Okafor moved through the medical bays, treating victims of atmospheric poisoning with methods that left the station's healer crystals in shocked silence. Instead of the gentle, harmonic therapy preferred by galactic medicine, she used direct chemical intervention, injecting patients with compounds designed to counteract the nanocontamination through pure molecular aggression. "I don't understand," whispered healer Resonance of Growth as she watched Dr. Okafor inject a dying Aquarian with stimulants. "You're introducing foreign chemicals directly into her bloodstream. How can healing come from such violence?" "Because sometimes," Dr. Okafor replied as her patient's gill slits began showing healthy pink coloration, "the body needs help fighting. Your healing methods work great when everything's in balance. But when something's actively trying to kill your patient, you need to fight back harder than it's fighting." Throughout the station, similar scenes played out as human emergency teams worked with desperate efficiency. They installed backup life support in areas where the biosystems had completely failed. They set up emergency shelters using materials stripped from less critical sections. They even began preparing evacuation procedures, loading some of their own cargo containers with life support equipment to serve as emergency escape pods. But perhaps most importantly, they demonstrated something the peaceful galaxy had forgotten: that sometimes survival required imposing your will upon hostile forces rather than seeking harmony with them. As the 6th hour approached, Rodriguez reported success. "Captain, primary atmosphere processing is online. We're showing green across all major circulation nodes." The change was immediately noticeable. Throughout the station, the quality of air began improving as human machines forced clean atmosphere into every corridor and chamber. The beautiful crystalline matrices might be dead or dying, but the people who depended on them were alive and breathing freely for the first time in days. Supervisor Glim stood in the ruins of his central atmospheric chamber, surrounded by the blackened remains of crystal matrices that had taken his people centuries to grow. The massive human atmosphere processor dominated the space, its mechanical humming a harsh counterpoint to the harmonic frequencies his people treasured. "Captain Martinez," he said slowly, his prismatic features cycling through colors of grief and gratitude. "You have saved us, but at such a cost." Martinez studied the alien supervisor with something approaching sympathy. She could see the pain in his crystalline features, the deep cultural violation represented by her crew's brutal efficiency. "Sir," she said quietly, "I know this hurts. I know we've destroyed something beautiful that your people spent generations building. But in 18 months, maybe less, you can grow new crystals. You can rebuild your harmonic systems. You can restore everything we've damaged." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But if we hadn't done this, there wouldn't be anyone left to rebuild anything." Glim nodded slowly, his colors shifting to the pale yellow of reluctant understanding. "You're correct, of course. It is simply difficult for my people to accept that sometimes salvation must come through destruction." "Sir," Rodriguez interjected from where he was monitoring the atmospheric processors, "we're not out of the woods yet. These machines will keep everyone breathing, but whoever hit you with that nanoweapon is still out there. And if they're smart, they'll realize their first attack failed." As if summoned by his words, the station's external sensors began registering new contacts approaching through hyperspace. Unknown vessels, moving in formation, broadcasting no identification signals. Martinez felt her predator instincts sharpen as she studied the tactical display. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Someone had expected this station to be dead or dying by now, and they were arriving to confirm their handiwork. "All hands," she announced over the ship's comm system, "we've got incoming hostiles. Prepare for combat operations." Throughout the Iron Providence, her crew moved with the smooth efficiency of apex predators preparing for battle. They had come to save lives, but if someone wanted to prevent that salvation, they would learn why humanity had clawed its way to the top of Terra's food chain. The unknown ships dropped out of hyperspace like hunters emerging from tall grass, their sleek forms cutting through the void with predatory grace. Captain Martinez counted 8 vessels, each one displaying the angular, aggressive lines that spoke of a civilization built for war rather than peace. "Ma'am," Navigator Chin called from his station, "I'm reading energy signatures I've never seen before. These aren't any of the Galactic Coalition species." Martinez nodded grimly as she studied the tactical display. The approaching ships moved in perfect formation, their courses calculated to surround the mining station. This wasn't a rescue mission or diplomatic contact. It was the final phase of whatever operation had begun with the nanoweapon attack. "Captain," Supervisor Glim's voice crackled over the comm system. "Our sensors show the approaching vessels. Are these your people?" "Negative," Martinez replied, her voice carrying the cold certainty of a predator recognizing rival hunters. "These are the people who try to kill you, and they're not happy that you're still breathing." On the Iron Providence's bridge, Chief Rodriguez pulled up system diagnostics with practiced efficiency. "Ma'am, we're a cargo hauler, not a warship. We've got basic defensive systems and some heavy industrial equipment, but against 8 military vessels. We'll make do with what we have," Martinez interrupted. "What's our tactical situation? 1 human cargo vessel versus 8 unknown military ships, all of which are larger and better armed than us," Tactical Officer Jensen reported with dry humor. "On the bright side, they probably don't expect us to fight." Martinez felt the familiar cold calculation settle over her mind, the mental state that had kept her alive through pirate raids in the Outer Rim. "They're right. Cargo haulers don't usually fight." Her smile was sharp enough to cut diamond. "Good thing we're not just any cargo haulers. The lead enemy vessel opened communications, its signal cutting through the station's frequencies with electronic authority. When the transmission cleared, the bridge crew found themselves looking at something that made their skin crawl. The being on the screen was vaguely humanoid, but wrong in subtle ways that triggered deep evolutionary warnings. Its pale, segmented flesh looked almost mechanical, and its multiple eyes focused independently like some kind of sophisticated scanning system. When it spoke, its voice carried harmonic undertones that seemed designed to inspire fear and submission. "Attention mining station and rescue vessel," the creature announced. "I am Commander Nexus 7 of the Hegemony Fleet. You are harboring contaminated biological specimens that pose a threat to galactic stability. Surrender all station personnel for immediate sterilization, and your own vessel will be permitted to depart unharmed." Supervisor Glim's terrified voice cut across the channel. "Captain Martinez, what does it mean by sterilization?" Dr. Okafor answered from her position at the medical station, her voice flat with professional diagnosis. "They're going to kill everyone on the station. The nanoweapon was just the opening move. They want everyone dead who might have been exposed to whatever they're really after." Commander Nexus 7's multiple eyes focused on the transmission with mechanical precision. The biological entities aboard the mining facility have been exposed to classified hegemony technology. Standard protocol requires complete elimination to prevent technological contamination of inferior species. Martinez felt something cold and hard crystallize in her chest, the same feeling that had driven her ancestors to hunt mammoths with sharpened sticks and bad attitudes. "Commander, this is Captain Sarah Martinez of the human vessel Iron Providence. These people are under our protection. If you want them, you'll have to go through us." The alien commander's expression shifted in ways that suggested amusement, though its mechanical features made emotions difficult to read. "Human. Yes, we have encountered your species before. You're the carnivorous primitives from the Rim territories. Your presence here is unexpected." "I bet it is," Martinez replied. "Tell me, Commander, when you encountered humans before, how did that work out for you?" For the first time, Commander Nexus 7's confident demeanor flickered slightly. "That is irrelevant. You pilot a single cargo vessel against 8 hegemony destroyers. Surrender the contaminated biological specimens, or share their fate." Martinez cut the transmission and turned to her crew. "All hands, battle stations. Chief Rodriguez, what kind of industrial equipment are we carrying?" "The usual heavy mining gear, ma'am," Rodriguez replied as his fingers danced across control panels. "Plasma cutters, kinetic pile drivers, magnetic grapples, and about 12 tons of industrial explosives for asteroid cracking." "Perfect," Martinez said with a predator's smile. "Jensen, start programming our mining charges for proximity detonation. Chun, plot intercept courses for those destroyers. I want to get close enough to hug them." Throughout the Iron Providence, her crew moved with the efficient brutality of apex predators adapting to hostile circumstances. What the Hegemony Fleet saw as a helpless cargo hauler was actually something far more dangerous. A human ship crewed by beings whose species had conquered their homeworld through pure aggressive determination. "Ma'am," Jensen reported, "the Hegemony ships are moving into attack formation. They're charging weapons." "Good," Martinez replied. "Let them get comfortable." "Rodriguez, how long until you can turn our mining equipment into weapons?" "Already done, ma'am," the chief engineer replied with satisfaction. "I've rigged the plasma cutters to fire concentrated beams instead of sustained cuts, loaded the kinetic pile drivers with explosive charges, and turned our cargo grapples into guided missiles. Won't be pretty, but it'll definitely ruin someone's day." The first Hegemony destroyer opened fire with energy weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. They still wanted the station's population alive for their sterilization process. Brilliant blue beams lanced across space toward the Iron Providence, calculated to overwhelm her basic defensive shields without damaging the mining facility. What they hadn't calculated on was human stubbornness and industrial-grade paranoia. "Evasive maneuvers," Martinez ordered. Take us into the debris field around the asteroid mining operation. The cargo hauler dove toward the scattered remains of broken asteroids and abandoned mining equipment, using the debris as cover while hegemony energy beams carved through empty space. The alien ships moved to pursue, their sophisticated targeting systems struggling to lock onto a vessel that flew like a maniac through obstacles that should have been impossible to navigate. "Ma'am," Chen called out as he threw the ship through a spiral that would have killed any peaceful species. "They're following us into the debris field." All 8 ships maintaining pursuit. "Excellent," Martinez replied. "Rodriguez, deploy our first surprise." The chief engineer triggered a sequence that sent 12 industrial plasma cutters launching from the Iron Providence's cargo bay. To the hegemony ships, they probably looked like desperate attempts at electronic jamming, small, crude devices that couldn't possibly threaten sophisticated military vessels. Right up until they started cutting through destroyer hulls like hot knives through butter. "What the hell?" Commander Nexus 7's voice crackled over the communication channels as his lead destroyer suddenly found itself venting atmosphere from a perfectly circular hole cut through its primary weapon array. "Industrial plasma cutters," Martinez replied cheerfully over the open channel. "We use them for asteroid mining, but they work great on ship hulls too. Turns out your fancy armor wasn't designed to stop mining equipment." The hegemony destroyers scattered as more plasma cutters found their targets, each one cutting through defensive shields and hull armor with the brutal efficiency of tools designed to carve up asteroids. The alien sophisticated military tactics hadn't prepared them for enemies who fought with mining equipment and bad attitudes. "Commander," one of the hegemony officers reported over their fleet channel, "we're taking significant damage from industrial equipment." "How is this possible?" Martinez could almost hear Commander Nexus 7's confusion through the static. "Continue attack pattern 7. Disable their primitive vessel before they cause more damage." But the Iron Providence wasn't done demonstrating human ingenuity in warfare. As the hegemony ships regrouped for another attack run, Rodriguez triggered his second surprise, a spread of kinetic piledrivers loaded with mining explosives and guided by magnetic sensors designed to track metal-rich asteroids. The hegemony destroyers' sophisticated hulls registered as extremely metal-rich targets. "Incoming missiles," a hegemony officer screamed over the tactical channel. "Those aren't missiles," Martinez corrected as 12 industrial piledrivers slammed into enemy vessels with the kinetic force of small meteors. "They're mining tools. We use them to drive support struts into asteroid cores." The explosions that followed turned 3 hegemony destroyers into expanding clouds of metallic debris. The remaining 5 ships found themselves facing an enemy that didn't fight according to any recognized tactical doctrine, because humans had never learned proper military tactics in the first place. "This is impossible," Commander Nexus 7 transmitted, his mechanical voice finally showing cracks of emotion. "Your cargo haulers. You cannot defeat military vessels with mining equipment." "Sir, Dr. Okafor's voice cut across the channel with clinical precision. "You're making the mistake of assuming humans separate military and civilian technology. We're predators. Everything we build can be turned into a weapon if necessary." The remaining hegemony ships regrouped for a final assault, their energy weapons charging to maximum power. But Martinez had saved her most devastating surprise for last. "Rodriguez," she ordered, "deploy the magnetic grapples." What emerged from the Iron Providence's cargo bay looked like simple magnetic anchors, devices used to secure cargo ships to asteroid mining platforms. But Rodriguez had made some modifications. The grapples shot out on reinforced cables, each one guided by sensors designed to locate metal deposits in asteroid fields. They latched onto the nearest hegemony destroyers with magnetic forces strong enough to hold cargo ships against the gravitational pull of small moons. "What are those things doing?" Commander Nexus 7 demanded as a ship's maneuvering systems registered massive external resistance. "They're cargo grapples," Martinez explained with predatory satisfaction. Normally we use them for towing heavy freight. She paused for dramatic effect. But they also work great for holding enemy ships in place while we do this. She triggered the final surprise, the 12 tons of mining explosives that Rodriguez had packed into disposable cargo containers and launched along the grapple cables. The shaped charges, designed to crack open asteroid cores, detonated simultaneously against the hulls of the remaining hegemony ships. The explosions lit up the space around the mining station like miniature suns, turning sophisticated military vessels into expanding spheres of superheated plasma. When the light faded, only debris remained where the hegemony fleet had been. Iron Providence to Kepler, 442C mining station, Martinez announced over the emergency frequencies. Threat neutralized. All personnel are safe to resume normal operations. Across the galaxy, the emergency response network fell silent as peaceful civilizations struggled to process what they had just witnessed. A single human cargo hauler had destroyed an entire military fleet using mining equipment and industrial explosives. On Verdania Prime, Elder Kelvin's photosynthetic patches flickered with emotions that had no names in his people's language. These carnivorous humans had done more than just save lives. They had demonstrated a capacity for violence that made every peaceful species in the galaxy question their basic assumptions about the nature of civilization. Captain Martinez, Supervisor Glim's voice trembled over the communication channel. The beings you destroyed, they called themselves the hegemony. What were they? Martinez studied the debris field where 8 military vessels had been reduced to scrap metal and expanding gas clouds. Sir, I think they were the reason your beautiful galaxy needed some carnivorous humans. In the aftermath of the battle, the Iron Providence drifted among the debris field that had once been 8 hegemony destroyers, her crew working to salvage anything that might provide answers about their mysterious attackers. Captain Martinez stood on her bridge, studying the scattered remains of alien technology while her mind processed the implications of what had just occurred. Ma'am, Chief Rodriguez reported from his engineering station, I'm analyzing wreckage from the lead destroyer. The technology level is disturbing. These weren't primitive raiders. They had weapons and defensive systems centuries ahead of anything I've seen from the Coalition species. Dr. Okafor emerged from the ship's medical bay, where she had been examining samples of the nanoweapon that had nearly killed the mining station. Her expression was grim as she approached the command group. Captain, I've completed analysis of the contamination agent. It's definitely artificial, but the sophistication is beyond anything in our databases. Worse, it's specifically designed to target biological and crystalline systems, the exact technologies that every coalition species depends on. Martinez nodded slowly as the pieces began forming a disturbing picture. The hegemony hadn't stumbled across this mining station by accident. They had deliberately targeted it with a weapon designed to kill coalition civilians slowly and helplessly, then arrived to finish the job when they expected to find only corpses. Jensen, she called to her tactical officer, what's our status on the wreckage analysis? Ma'am, I'm detecting residual energy signatures from at least 12 different weapon systems, all of them designed for ship-to-ship combat. These weren't exploration vessels or even patrol ships. They were purpose-built warships. Jensen paused, studying his readings more carefully. Captain, there's something else. I'm detecting traces of the same nanotechnology from the mining station contamination embedded in their hull materials. The implications hit Martinez like a physical blow. They've been using this weapon before. Looks that way, ma'am, Jensen confirmed. Multiple deployments based on the residue patterns. This attack on Kepler, 442C, wasn't their first. Before Martinez could respond, the ship's communication system crackled to life with an incoming transmission from the mining station. Supervisor Glim's prismatic form appeared on the main screen, his crystalline features cycling through colors of confusion and growing horror. Captain Martinez, Glim began, his voice trembling with barely controlled emotion. We have received communication from the Galactic Emergency Response Network. There have been other incidents. The transmission shifted to show a holographic map of local space, with red markers indicating emergency beacons across 17 different star systems. Each marker represented a station, colony, or outpost that had gone silent in the past 6 months, their emergency transmissions cutting off abruptly after reports of atmospheric contamination. "Sweet Jesus," Dr. Okafor whispered as she counted the markers. 43 separate facilities. Hundreds of thousands of people. The coalition leadership assumed these were isolated incidents. Glim continued, his colors shifting to deep purple with shame. Equipment failures, natural disasters, unfortunate accidents. No one connected them because we don't think in terms of coordinated attacks. The concept of deliberate, systematic genocide is foreign to our understanding of civilized behavior. Martinez felt the cold fury that had sustained her species through countless conflicts crystallizing in her chest. This wasn't random violence or even territorial expansion. It was systematic extermination, carried out with the methodical precision of predators eliminating competition. "Ma'am," Navigator Chen interrupted from his station, "I'm receiving priority transmissions from Verdania Prime. Elder Kelvin is requesting immediate communication." The holographic display shifted to show the plant-like Elder, his photosynthetic patches dim with exhaustion and his bark-like skin showing stress patterns that spoke of sleepless days spent in crisis management. "Captain Martinez," Elder Kelvin began without preamble, "your actions at Kepler 442c have changed things. The entire Galactic Coalition is now aware that we face a threat we do not understand, carried out by beings whose very existence contradicts our understanding of civilized development." Martinez could hear the weight of revelation in the Elder's voice. For species that had evolved past predation, that had built their civilizations on principles of harmony and cooperation, the existence of the hegemony represented a fundamental challenge to their worldview. "Elder," Martinez replied carefully, "what do your people know about this hegemony?" "Until today, nothing," Kelvin admitted. "They do not appear in our historical records, our diplomatic databases, or our exploration surveys. They exist outside the boundaries of civilized space, beyond the reach of our peaceful expansion." He paused, his photosynthetic patches flickering with something that might have been fear. "Captain, we believe they have been systematically eliminating coalition facilities for months, perhaps years, and we never recognized the attacks for what they were." The tactical display updated with new information as coalition intelligence networks began sharing data for the first time in decades. The pattern that emerged was chilling in its methodical precision. Remote facilities targeted first, isolated colonies eliminated before they could send detailed distress calls, a carefully planned campaign of extermination disguised as random accidents. "How many?" Martinez asked quietly. "Based on our preliminary analysis," Kelvin replied, his voice barely above a whisper, "we estimate that the hegemony has eliminated between 700,000 and 1 million coalition citizens over the past 18 months. The bridge of the Iron Providence fell silent as the crew absorbed the magnitude of the revelation. An entire military campaign had been waged against the peaceful galaxy, and none of the civilized species had even realized they were under attack until humans arrived to disrupt the pattern. "Elder," Rodriguez called from his engineering station, "I've been analyzing the hegemony technology. Their weapons are specifically designed to counter coalition defensive systems. Energy frequencies that disrupt crystalline matrices, nanoagents that target biological processes, tactics built around the assumption that their enemies won't fight back effectively." "Because we don't," Kelvin confirmed with bitter honesty. "Our species evolved past the need for warfare millennia ago. We have exploration vessels, research ships, even some defensive platforms, but nothing designed for actual combat. When threatened, our instinct is to seek harmony, to find peaceful resolution." His colors shifted to deep red. "But how do you find harmony with beings whose goal is your complete extinction?" Martinez studied the tactical data flowing across her displays, her predator instincts automatically analyzing threat patterns and defensive weaknesses. The picture that emerged was both encouraging and terrifying. Encouraging because the hegemony's tactics were built around assumptions about enemy behavior that didn't apply to humans. Terrifying because of the sheer scale of the threat they represented. "Ma'am," Tactical Officer Jensen reported, "I'm detecting multiple hyperspace signatures approaching this system. Unknown configuration, but the energy patterns match hegemony technology." The main display updated to show 24 new contacts dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. These weren't the destroyers they had fought earlier. They were massive vessels that dwarfed even the largest coalition ships, their angular hulls bristling with weapon systems designed for planetary bombardment. "Iron Providence," Commander Nexus 7's voice crackled over the communication system. "You have interfered with hegemony pacification operations. Surrender immediately, and your death will be swift." Martinez felt a smile spread across her face that would have terrified any sane being. "Commander, this is Captain Sarah Martinez. I thought we blew you up with the rest of your fleet. I command from the hegemony flagship Inevitable Conclusion," Nexus 7 replied. "My destroyers were an acceptable loss to gather intelligence on human military capabilities. Now we shall demonstrate why the hegemony has never failed to complete a pacification operation." The massive enemy ships began moving into bombardment formation, their weapons charging with energies that could sterilize entire planets. But Martinez was no longer thinking like the captain of a single cargo hauler facing impossible odds. She was thinking like a member of a species that had climbed to the top of the food chain by refusing to accept impossible odds. "All coalition vessels in range of this transmission," she announced over the emergency frequencies. "This is Captain Martinez of the human vessel, Iron Providence. The beings attacking your people call themselves the hegemony, and they've been systematically exterminating your colonies for over a year. They're here now with a full fleet, and they plan to finish what they started." Across the galaxy, peaceful civilizations listened in growing horror as Martinez laid out the evidence of the hegemony's campaign. For species that had believed warfare was extinct, the revelation that they had been losing a war they didn't even know they were fighting came as a devastating shock. However, Martinez continued, her voice carrying the cold confidence of an apex predator. "There's something the hegemony didn't count on. They designed their tactics around the assumption that their enemies would be peaceful, civilized, and unwilling to fight dirty." Her smile became positively feral. "They've never fought humans before." She switched to her ship's internal communication system. "All hands, prepare for combat operations. Chief Rodriguez, I want every piece of mining equipment we have weaponized and ready for deployment. Dr. Okafor, prepare emergency medical facilities. We're about to show these mechanical bastards why carnivorous species don't go extinct." "Ma'am," Jensen reported with professional calm, "we're facing 24 capital ships with a single cargo hauler. The tactical situation is hopeless," Martinez finished. "Good. Humans do their best work when the situation is hopeless." She opened a channel to the hegemony flagship. "Commander Nexus 7, before you start your bombardment, I want you to know something about humans." "Enlighten me," the alien commander replied with mechanical arrogance. "We're persistence hunters," Martinez explained conversationally. "That means when we decide to kill something, we don't stop. Ever. We follow it across continents, and through seasons until it collapses from exhaustion. We've been known to track wounded prey for weeks just to finish the hunt." She paused. "The thing is, Commander, you just made 3,000 coalition civilians our pack, and you try to kill our pack." Before Nexus 7 could respond, Martinez triggered every weapon system Rodriguez had cobbled together from mining equipment. Plasma cutters, kinetic pile drivers, magnetic grapples, and mining charges launched from the Iron Providence like a swarm of industrial wasps, each one guided by sensors designed to locate valuable minerals in asteroid fields. The hegemony ships, designed to engage conventional military vessels, found themselves under attack by weapons that didn't follow any known tactical doctrine. Their defensive systems, programmed to counter energy weapons and guided missiles struggled to classify targets that registered as mining equipment. "Ma'am," Chen called out as he threw the ship through evasive maneuvers that violated several laws of physics. Multiple coalition vessels dropping out of hyperspace. "I count." "Jesus, ma'am. It's the entire coalition emergency fleet." The display lit up with hundreds of ships representing every peaceful species in the galaxy. They weren't warships, they were exploration vessels, research ships, cargo haulers, and civilian transports. But they were moving in formation, and for the first time in their species' histories, they were moving to fight. "Iron Providence," Elder Kelvin's voice came over the communication system. "This is the Coalition Emergency Fleet. We don't know how to fight, but we know how to die for something worth protecting. What are your orders, Captain?" Martinez felt something shift in the universe around her, a moment when history pivoted on the actions of a single cargo hauler and her crew of 23 humans. The peaceful galaxy was asking carnivorous humans to teach them how to wage war. "Elder," she replied, her voice carrying the authority of species born for this moment. "Welcome to the food chain. Let's show the hegemony what happens when prey decides to stop running."